Without further ado, you're going to enjoy Multifamily MythBusters. We can bring up Turner and Peyton.
How many people here have seen the show MythBusters? Awesome, a lot of people. So if you're not familiar with the show, what they do on the show is they take, common sayings or, perceptions and theories, and they try to put them to the test through experiments. So for example, they take something like as simple as you can't fold a paper more than 7 times, and they would try it every which way possible to try to figure out if it's true or false. And you guys have pieces of paper, so if you want to try it yourself, you can do that. But we're going to be focused on Multifamily MythBusters. Looks great. Excellent job by our marketing department on that, making us look way cooler than we are. But we're really excited about this. So, we talk to a lot of different companies over every single month. Peyton in particular, we've spoken with Marcus and Chelsea at length to get a sense of, what's the pulse of the industry? What are the trendy topics that you guys are talking about, caring about? And so we really tried to pick, 3 things that we felt really strongly would be relevant to try to put to the test. So again, if you're not familiar with the show, they have 3 categorizations of everything they experiment. You have busted. Busted means that they have proven it to be false. You have plausible, which basically means we don't have enough evidence either way. It could be true, it could be false. And then you have confirmed, meaning that it is confirmed as true. They have proven it to be the case. So like I said, we have 3 topics that we're going to go through, and we are going to do our experiments to figure out if they are busted, plausible, or confirmed. So Peyton, tell us, why did we exactly pick this particular format for this presentation?
Yeah, so it's interesting. Like Turner said, we get a lot of feedback from y'all on a month-to-month basis, and so we tried to pick topics that we felt were relevant, and then also topics that we had sound data on. I know that, like the theme for this conference is always getting smarter, and so the hope is that we can bring in the data to some of these topics and, give you things, takeaways that you can take and then, make smarter decisions with. So, myth number 1, the more reviews, the better. Is review push efforts the main thing that we want to focus on for our online reputation? Myth number 2, crime has no zip code. This may be a topic that y'all have talked about before. Do properties have an ability to, make an impact on the safetiness of their property? And then it's better to separate fees from rent. What do our residents think about these fees? And, how are they affecting online reputation and even the bottom line? So, myth number 1, we want to get a show of hands. Who thinks that this will be busted? Who thinks plausible? And who thinks confirmed? Okay, so mixed views. We'll see how y'all did when we get to the end. So let's hop into this. First thing that we need to address is what is currently happening with the reviews. And so we went back to 2020, and the main takeaway here is that we see average number of 5-star reviews per property have been on a steep incline since 2020. Not super shocking to us. We know the increase focus that people have put on the value of a good online reputation, and so we love to see this at J. Turner. But one thing that may be a little bit shocking is if we zoom in on this little red line here, we see that over the same amount of time, 1 and 2 stars have also been on a bit of a rise. Now, I know what you're thinking. This is not near the increase that we were seeing with the 5 stars, and that's true. But as we'll get into with some of the future slides, the 1 and 2 stars have a drastic effect on your average star rating, and then obviously your online reputation. So the fact that this is even on just a little bit of an incline is something that we're concerned about.
Yeah, and I want to call back to Marcus and Chelsea's awesome presentation yesterday. You remember the emphasis that they placed on how a lot of prospects are really focused on reading 4 and 5-star reviews, which is awesome. But remember the other thing that they did say, that 60% of prospects decided not to tour a property because of a 1-star review. 60% of prospects did not lease at a property because of a 1-star review. So while the 4 and 5 stars are incredibly important, we're definitely not saying you don't need to be focused on those. This trend here should be somewhat concerning, even though we see that it's a pretty micro trend in comparison to the steep increase in 5-star reviews. But I want to go beyond that and really talk about just a case study here. And I'm going to kind of help the math play out for you in terms of what increases in 1 and 2-star review feedback can do on your business, and specifically your online reputation. So this is a company that we were talking to, and we were looking at just the sheer number of reviews that they have gotten year by year. Now this is a quite large organization. They have stayed pretty consistent in their portfolio size, going back to 2016. And you can see, 2016 they had 3,300 reviews come in. Awesome. They went up to 6,800 reviews in 2017. So doubled it. You can imagine some of the things they were doing. They were getting their maintenance professionals to ask for 5-star feedback. They're using QR codes. They're asking after events, doing all those great things. And they've continued that upward trajectory. In 2022, they had 11,000 reviews that they amassed. We pulled this data in September of 2023, so you can see that they are on pace to exceed even their 2022 number. So this is clearly a company that has been focused on trying to get more reviews. But this chart is going to show you their average star rating and the distribution of all those new reviews they have coming in. And we see 2016, their average star rating was 3.52. 2017, when they started to get focused on online reputation, that number made a nice jump up to 3.80. And that's great. We want to have the sentiment of the reviews going up. That's going to be what raises those average star ratings that we have across all the sites. But we know that they continue to increase volume from 2017 on, right? What's the issue? The problem is their average star rating has stayed the exact same. They were 3.80 in 2017, 3.75 in 2023. So even though they've been getting all those new reviews, all they've done is add volume on to the same sentiment that they've already expressed to their prospects. Now, you might be wondering, how's that the case? I want you to pay attention to the rest of this graph here. So the dark green line, that bar, is going to represent the percentage of reviews that were a 5-star. The red line is going to represent the percentage of reviews that were a 1-star. And so you can see the ratio of 5 stars to 1 stars has remained relatively consistent. Specifically, this company, for every 4th or 5th review they had coming in, was getting a 1-star. And ultimately, that ends up bringing down that average star rating that kind of keeps you from getting to where you want to go. I know that was a lot of math, so for all my visual people out there, I'm going to make this very clear and simple for you. Like I said, we work with a lot of properties at J. Turner Research, and most of them get about 5 to 10 reviews per month. So let's just split that right down the middle and say we have a property that averages 8 reviews in a month. And let's say they're also really focused on doing the right things and they're able to get 6 5-star reviews every single month. Awesome. They're doing all the right things. But over the course of each month, maybe they forget to return a phone call. We talked about how important that was. Maybe they have an issue with a maintenance team member and 2 1-stars end up trickling in. That average star rating goes down to 4.00. Now, that's a pretty solid rating, right? Kelly Shannon, I know you, though, are trying to be in the rankings. You want elite 1%. You want to be top in the division rankings. 4.00 is not going to cut it, is it? No. You got to be closer to 4.5, 4.7 if you want to be the best of the best. So let's say we go to this property and say, guys, we need to bring this up. Give me another 5-star review. All right. That brings us up a little bit, right, but only to 4.11. Still not quite where we want to be. Contrarily, if we take this property and we have them really focus in on their customer service, their resident satisfaction, and we're able just to remove one of those 1-stars, this number shoots all the way up to 4.43. Much more in line with where we want to be in terms of that average star rating. Now, if you want to take the hard way and just try to attack this problem by getting additional 5-stars, this is what it looks like. You have to get 12 5-star reviews at that point to offset those 2 1-stars, just to get up to that same 4.43 level. So we're big proponents at J. Turner Research of the shortest path to victory. We know your on-site teams have a lot on their plate. We know you guys have a lot on your plates. So, based on this data, my personal recommendation is if you're having them focused on reducing those 1 stars, that makes it a lot easier to get to those online reputation numbers that you're striving for.
Okay, now, we are J. Turner Research. Of course, we had to show you this information in terms of aura. So we're going to run a couple of aura simulations using the same star rating metrics that Turner just showed us. But to start, we're going to start with property A here. This is just your standard average property. They have an aura score of 64. You can see their ratings there on 4 of the main sites, and pretty moderate overall feedback. If they were to get the 6 5-star reviews that Turner had mentioned, the 2 1-stars, that 4-star average rating, over a 6-month period, let's see what would happen to their aura score. It's going to go up 2 points. Pretty solid movement. Like Turner mentioned, 4-star average, that's pretty good. We can see, the average sentiment on some of the sites increased, and we're on track to have a pretty good year with this property, seeing a 2-point increase over 6 months. Now, if we go back, we take the same property, the 64, and we take the other path, where we remove the 1-star review that we're getting each month, and we run the same aura simulation over the 6 months with the 4.43. Look at what happens to the aura score, +9. So a 7-point difference just because we're eliminating 1 1-star review per month. Imagine that for your company, for across all of your properties for your portfolio. This makes a huge difference on your aura score, and you can really see the compounding effect that the 1-star reviews can have on the aura score over time. Now, like Turner mentioned, it's nice to see the averages, but we have a lot of the elite out here in the crowd. We want to see how do those differ from your standard property, and you can see it here. The math still works out perfectly. Your average conventional property, they're getting about 1 1-star review each month. Your elite 1% properties, so those, the very top of aura, drops all the way down to 0.4, so less than half. And for my student properties out there, it's an even bigger difference. So we can see your average student property getting about 1.2 1-stars per month. The top 100 properties averaging about 1/4 of a 1-star review each month. So there's a huge difference, not only in the 5-star feedback that we're pushing each month, but our ability to really limit those 1-stars and focus in on that resident satisfaction side of the aura score.
Now, I know what some of you guys are thinking. Turner, residents are emotional. I can't control if they go and leave me a 1-star review. They're only telling one side of the story. I get that. I empathize with that. We've seen plenty of trolling situations to know that does happen from time to time. But we didn't want to just leave you with a bunch of math. We wanted to show you some practical takeaways of what the best properties do better at than everybody else. So as my father mentioned yesterday, we've spent the last 3 years developing a tool called Einstein Thought Analysis. What that does is it takes each thought within each review and categorizes it into one of 22 operational categories and labels it as either positive, like a compliment, or negative, a complaint. And so we analyzed 1.7 million reviews through that tool, and we simply looked at, how often are we seeing complaints for all 22 different operational categories. So if we just take a look at the first line up here, customer service, 15.1% of all reviews, regardless of star rating, have some level of complaint about customer service. Contrarily, for our elite 1% properties, the best of best, it's about 1/3 the rate. Only 5.5% of their reviews have a complaint related to customer service. So we took all the data between the two parties, we plugged it into one of our fancy algorithms, and it spit out the 10 things that the elite 1% properties do better at than everybody else. And if we just even look at the top 5, customer service, maintenance service, communication, financial clarity, condition of the unit. Now, when I hear those 5 things, what that sticks out to me is those are the core founding principles of what you guys do every single day. It's your ability to connect with your residents, communicate well, be responsive in a fast manner, of course, and give them a working, functional unit. And so, these elite 1% properties aren't doing anything crazy a lot of times to be the best of the best. What they're doing is they're doing the core things incredibly well.
So, in conclusion, let's see how everybody did. Busted. So for people that did that, congratulations. You got this right. Clearly, we're not trying to diminish the importance of the 5-star reviews like Marcus and Chelsea showed us yesterday. Those are extremely important. Prospects are looking at those when they're making their decisions, but that can't be our only focus. We really have to remain focused on the resident satisfaction piece, making sure that we limit those 1 stars. It's going to raise the average star rating. It's going to raise our OR score, and that's good for us all around.
All right, you guys ready to move on to number 2? All right, here we go. Crime has no zip code. I know there's already some shivers in the audience. We don't typically like to talk about crime and safety in the multifamily industry, but let's go through the same exercise. Who thinks this is busted? That crime has no zip code, that saying is not true at all and we can prove it? Few people. What about plausible? Couple hands, all right. And what about confirmed? We can prove that crime has no zip code. Okay, awesome. Well, this is a very sensitive topic, like I mentioned, in the multifamily industry. I know a lot of times you guys might be even instructing your leasing agents that if someone is visiting the property or a resident brings up something safety related, you may instruct them to say this because you don't want to get sued. You don't want to be held liable for the safety of the resident, the perception of safety, and I can totally understand and sympathize with that. But, this is a smart group of leaders. None of your residents are here. We want to really talk with you and help you understand, can you guys have an impact on how perceived, safety is at your property? Can you make an impact on the feeling that your residents have? And that's what we really want to dive into so that you can come back with something actionable. So, Peyton, can you talk about what we're going to do to attack this one?
Yes, so kind of like I mentioned at the top, the goal here is to really bring in the data, see what that says. And for this one in particular, we kind of have a bit of a case study using our friend Marcus Armstrong in the back. Shout out, Marcus. Recently, some of you may not know, Marcus moved back to Houston to be in the J. Turner offices every day. And so when Marcus and his family are moving back, obviously they're looking for a new place to live. And so Marcus goes looking for apartments. It probably looked very similar to the process that he and Chelsea walked y'all through yesterday. He narrowed it down to the area he wants to live. He's looking in Katy, Texas, our neighbors to the west. And Marcus narrows everything down to 2 properties. And Marcus, being the genius that we all know he is, he does what you should do, and he goes and he looks at the online reviews of these 2 properties. And he notices that one of them has a lot of complaints in their reviews related to security. And so when Marcus goes on the tour, he asks the leasing agent, I saw that we have a lot of complaints about security at this property. Could you speak a little bit about that? And she told him that crime is not something that they have control over. And so we really wanted to put that to the test. So we actually picked Katy, Texas to run this experiment. And Marcus is actually going to hop on the map there if he can. We're going to bring this up. So this is a crime map of the Katy, Texas area. First thing we notice, there's a ton of green. Marcus and his wife, probably his wife, did a great job of picking where they want to live. It's a safe area. The only red we have is George Bush Park, which is not a residential area, and Marcus will just have to be safe on his morning runs. If you scroll over to Houston, by the way, we noticed this, and it was alarming for Turner and I, who happen to live close to downtown. Not near as safe. So maybe, we need to follow Marcus out to Katy. But the big takeaway here is that the overall area of Katy where Marcus is looking is safe. And so we're going to plot all of these, and Turner's going to walk through that. And we, again, brought in Einstein to analyze all those properties, analyze the security mentions on them to see, does all of this line up?
Yeah, like Peyton said, so, Marcus being the professor and future doctor that he is, we wanted to take a data approach to helping solve his issue. So we took every single property within the Katy, Texas area. We took their lifetime reviews, all the reviews they have online, and we plugged them into our Einstein tool. And we looked at how often they're getting complaints related to security. So Marcus, I'll have you bring up the map here. And boom, these are all the properties within the Katy, Texas area. Okay, now I'll break down the color codes for you. So green is good, as you might have guessed. Orange is right in the middle, and red is bad. So what the red actually means is that property gets complaints about security at a higher rate than what we see nationally. So kind of an atypical amount of security complaints. Orange means that they're right in line. Okay, maybe they have a few, but nothing that would kind of, have us raise a red flag to say, like, this property is really struggling with security. And then green is good. It means they have maybe 0 complaints, but definitely a lower rate of complaints than what we see nationally. Now, I want to ask someone in the audience, so you can just talk loudly. What is your first impression when you see that this map here? Clustering. Okay, anybody else? No rhyme or reason. That was my initial takeaway. That, in comparison to Peyton's map, where we've proved, based on what the government is telling us at least, that Katy is a very safe city, this doesn't quite look the same, right? It's a little bit of a hodgepodge. There's some red, there's some orange, there's some green. And so, right off the bat, we kind of see that it looks like at first glance it might be a little bit property dependent or, very, like you said, cluster dependent. So, Marcus, let's go ahead and dive into a couple of closer examples. Let's start out in the south there, and we're going to bring up these 6 properties that are within a 1-mile radius of each other. Now, what do you guys notice here? We have 5 properties in green, meaning that they have basically 0 complaints related to how the residents perceive safety at their property. Then, we got this guy right here, tons of complaints about security. So even though they're in the same general area, this one property here seems to be struggling with security and safety perception. Now, Marcus, let's go to the east, please, and let's go take a look at some properties a little bit closer to I-10. The bane of your existence in terms of getting to the office every day. And all right, we got another cluster of about, 6 properties. Yep, 6 properties again. And here we see the inverse. So these properties, all within a 1-mile radius, 3 of them are really struggling with safety and security. 2 are in line. And then we have our one golden goose right here, this one property that is killing it. Their residents feel safe, even though maybe other people in the neighborhood do not at their property. So, all right, last one, Marcus. Go show us the 2 properties that you were choosing between. Right there. Marcus, which property was the one that said crime has no zip code?
The red one.
The red one. And Marcus, which property did you move into?
The green one.
The green one. Interesting. Something for you guys to think about. All right, we'll go back to the slide deck here. And I'll turn it over to Peyton to talk about maybe what we can control.
Yeah, so like we did in the first one, we don't want to just prove or disprove the theory. We want to give you some tangible takeaways that you can take back to your teams, take back to your companies. And one of the things that really stands out is cleanliness. And I'm actually going to give a shout out to Mindy on the Multifamily Leaders podcast. She had Nathan Burnett on from Watchtower Security, and she asked, what is something that our properties can do, those that are struggling with the security, safety feedback? And his number one thing he said was, you got to get the property clean. It goes a long way. And so we heard that. We went, we talked to Marcus, we talked to Turner, and we said, we've got data on this. Let's see if this lines up. And so we looked at our prospect survey, and we have questions related to both cleanliness and safety. And as you can see, almost a perfect correlation between the scoring on the cleanliness of a property and the perception of safety on that same property. So if we do have some in our portfolio that this is something that they're struggling with, one thing we would highly recommend is to put a huge focus on the cleanliness of a property, making sure it looks nice, because we see that when prospects see that, there's a huge, there's a correlation there. They think that it's safe just because it's clean.
All right, now I am my father's son, so of course I have to do another shameless plug here. But at J. Turner Research, we have our action planning tool, okay? And what this tool does is properties can take their survey questions and come up with a game plan of how to try to raise the score on each of the questions, okay? So they go in, they set up a plan, they pick a couple of things they want to work on, and what they do is they actually list out the action items that they're going to do to try to raise that score. Now, we have a couple of ways they can do that. They can come in and type up their own solution to the issue, or they can reference this tip bank that we have. That's basically a list of all the other action items properties have taken to try to raise their scores on questions. Now, being the data people that we are, we track the success percentage at all the different action items to see how effective they are. So on our prospect survey, we ask a question related to how the prospects perceive the safety of the community to be. And I looked specifically at properties that had worked on this question to see what action items have the best percentage of raising up the score. And these were the 4 that kind of stood out. They had all been used more than 5 times, so it gave us a nice sample size, and the success percentage was really high. Number 1, you can see, discuss that the front door is always locked, the elevator is locked, fob access is required. Now, you can see here, they're checking all the balances to make sure that all their safety equipment that they have is fully operational, but they're also doing a good job of discussing it. It's easy to make it a hush-hush topic. We don't want to overpromise something related to safety. That makes a lot of sense. But to show the residents that you have some level of care about their safety, that you are doing things around the property, discussing it, I think could be an effective strategy for helping them feel safer. Now, I know that not every property can have fob access, and that's okay. So look at number 2 here. Schedule coffee with the local police officer to discuss normal protocols. Also 100% success rate. And I really like this idea because any property can do it, and you can even get your residents involved in this. For residents that are particularly concerned about safety, you can have them come do almost a town hall format, where they get to discuss with the police officer what's going on in the neighborhood, what are some of the things that they're doing to help keep everybody safe. Number 3, monthly light checks and parking lots and buildings. That makes a lot of sense. I can speak from firsthand experience. I have a little bit of an irrational fear of having my car broken into. So when I'm driving around Houston, I only park in places that are well lit, tend to stay away from the ones that are more dimly lit. And then last but not least, we have, as the manager, I will drive and walk through the community to identify areas that might seem unsafe. I'll look for areas that are not well lit, have litter, or are questionable in some way. I'll make sure the entrance looks welcoming. So kind of tying it all together, we want to keep the property clean, we want to make sure it's well lit, and we want to have this a part of our day-to-day process. We don't want to just put it to the corner because it's not something we can fully control. We want to embrace the fact that we can control it to some extent. If you're focused on being really good, you can make your residents feel safer, which will in turn help your online reputation and help your retention rates.
So, in conclusion, again, Turner just mentioned most of it. This one, busted. Like you said, we may not be able to control everything. You can't control the crime in a neighborhood, but on site, the properties do have an ability to influence the safety perception on site each day.
And I will just quickly mention, if you guys do want to do this for any of your properties, see me after. We can look at this data for your company. We'd be happy to do that. So if this is something that you're still a little skeptical about or just interested in, come find me, and I'd be happy to generate that for you. All right, number 3, our final one here. It's better to separate fees from rent. Now, this is a big hot topic item. I know if you're on NAA in particular, you know all about this whole discussion that's going on with the FTC. But let's just take a crack before we get into it. How many of you guys think it's definitely better. It's confirmed that it's better to separate fees from rent. Okay, a couple people. How many of you guys think it's plausible? It might be better to separate fees from rent. Okay? And how many of you guys do you think busted? That this is definitely not better to separate fees from rent? How many of you guys are just doing that because we busted the first two? Okay. So like I said, this is a topic that's going on. If you're not aware, NAA has been really focused on working with the FTC to open up this fee conversation. The FTC has been really looking at the hotel industry to identify things that they perceive to be junk fees. They're trying to protect consumers in that regard. And so I understand that this is something that a lot of you guys are highly focused on. It's a part of your everyday conversations. And so we don't really need to get too much into detail on that aspect of it. What Peyton and I want to focus on specifically is what is your residents' perception of this whole fee conversation? Are the fees that they're getting that's separated from rents, like those lifestyle fees, those amenity fees, is it angering residents? Is it something that is, bringing down your online reputation and your retention rates? Because that is something that you guys definitely have to care about, as you're structuring this type of thing.
Yes, so like Turner said, we really want to focus in on the resident side of things. How do they feel about these fees? And so the first question we have is this even a problem? And if it is, how big of a problem is this for the residents? And as we can see, financial specifically, this is the third most mentioned category, according to Einstein, in 1- and 2-star reviews. And Turner, if we zoom in on that category specifically, we can see lifetime percentage right at 25%. So almost a quarter of all 1- and 2-star reviews have a complaint related to this financial category. I mean, that's huge. And the other important thing to notice is that it's on the rise. We see it's 25% lifetime. In 2022, it was up to 25.5%. And now, first half 2023, up to almost 29%. So we're closing in on 30% of all of our 1- and 2-star reviews having complaints related to this financial category. Another one we wanted to mention, a little bit further down the list, amenities. Now, again, like I said, a little further down the list, lifetime, only about 9.5% of our 1- and 2-star reviews have a complaint related to this. But again, something that's on a pretty dramatic rise. 2022 up to almost 11.5%, and then now again, first half 2023, all the way up close to 15% of all of our 1- and 2 stars having a complaint related to the amenities. And this is important. We'll get back to the amenities in a minute. We're going to look a little bit more into the financial category. So, we've identified that it is a problem. It's a top 3 problem for our residents on the online reputation side. But what exactly goes into this category? Just the word financial can be a little vague. And so let's see what Einstein actually says is included inside the financial category. First off, what it is not. It is not reviews saying my rent is too much. Einstein's smarter than that. We know that nobody's happy about the amount of rent that they're paying. They knew that up front, so we exclude this from the financial category. But it does include things like the payment system, how easy that is to use, rent increases that they felt were too high or unexpected, and then yes, fees. And if we look, 65% of all of these negative financial mentions have something to do with fees. Quotes like, I don't understand why there was a fee, or I did not know that I was going to get hit with this charge. So we can see that on the financial side of things, not only is it a top 3 overall for us, but 65% of that is just related to the fee side of things. Now, so we come back to the amenities. When we look at into detail on the amenity category, again, the fees come up, 25%. So a quarter of all of our complaints related to amenities also mention something about fees. So things like, why am I still paying an amenity fee if the pool's not open or if the gym, is closed? Things like that.
So let's do some math. I know we have a lot of J. Turner clients here, and we appreciate you guys, of course, but I want to take a look at just, some sheer numbers of, what all the percentages that Peyton mentioned really translate out to. Now, we had 600,000 reviews come in 2022 and 2023 among J. Turner Research clients. About 1/5 of those, 120,000 of them, were 1- and 2-star reviews. We're going to try to lower that in 2024. But if we just break that out, we can come to the conclusion that about 33,000 of them mention financial negatively. And so if we do take the 65% of that, it means that 21,375 individual people had a complaint specifically related to not understanding a fee that they were receiving at their community. Now, like Peyton said, this also goes beyond that financial category to amenities. And we do the math there, and we find out that an additional 4,000 people are upset that they are being charged a fee while an amenity is closed. So, taking a step back, just among the companies we work with, 25,000 different people are upset because they did not understand a fee or a charge that they were receiving, on their monthly ledger. And so, that is a shocking amount of people. So let's take a step back and bring this full circle to see how this is impacting everyone's business, because I know that's what you guys ultimately care about. So we took a look at properties that are receiving a lot of complaints on this category. So we looked specifically at 2023. For properties that had 20-plus reviews mentioning financial negatively, their average Aura movement was down 1.87 points. Pretty low. Now, properties that are doing just slightly poor in this category, 10 to 20 reviews, their average Aura movement in 2023 has been down 0.63. But for our properties that are doing well, they're avoiding mentions, the negative, about financial clarity. Their Aura score's actually gone up 0.98 on average. So not only do you avoid a potential pitfall by, avoiding complaints related to financial clarity, but what does that mean you do well? It probably means you're great communicators, and we know how important that is for resident satisfaction. We know how much people care about that. Like Jay Bear said, they want a speedy and accurate response. So if you're doing well at avoiding complaints, it also means you're probably doing a lot of other things well, and we anticipate that you're adding value to your property and your online reputation. Now, for those that aren't as concerned about Aura, maybe you want to hear this in terms of dollars. Aura has a direct correlation to renewal rates. And so if you want to just put this in terms of the average cost to turn over a unit. Obviously, if we're having a lot of complaints, 1- to 2-star reviews, those residents are going to be more likely to not stay with us. We did some research. The average cost to turn over a unit is $3,850. So if you're charging a resident $50 a month in an amenity fee or a lifestyle fee, it's going to take you about 6.5 years to break even if they do leave, because they're dissatisfied. Moreover, Jay talked about this a little bit as well. A lot of consumers will pay more to do business with a company that is excelling. 70% is the number that Marcus found in his research. Said they would pay more to do business with a company that delivers great customer service. So it goes back to what we just talked about in the last slide. Not only do you avoid a potential pitfall, and especially financially, if you are not getting a lot of complaints about this, but you even have an opportunity to increase, your dollars and your net profit margin if you are performing well and keeping people happy through strong communication skills. Now, I will just quickly touch on the FTC conversation as we wrap this one up here. So for those of you that are not aware of what's going on, maybe you're not working as closely with NAA on this. So they are kind of diving into, what exactly residents are being charged. Like I said, they're kind of looking for things that they deem as junk fees. We're not the experts in this regard, so we're not going to get totally into, how we see this all playing out. But we did want you to be aware of some of the things that they are being charged for. So the things that they brought up are utilities-related fees, convenience fees, trash fees, pest control fees, technology fees, common area and amenity-related fees, mail sorting fees. So, probably a lot of things that you guys maybe do at your properties, maybe not. I think the main thing we wanted you to be aware of is that this conversation is happening. And just because NAA is working with the FTC doesn't guarantee a particular outcome either way. But it is something that you may just want to look into and be aware that this conversation is going on.
In conclusion, with this one, does anybody have any guesses after we went through the data? Turner? Plausible. Now, kind of like Turner alluded to, we're not going to get super into the conversation related to NAA and FTC. You know, every property is different, every company is different, how you're doing your fees. So not a ton of control there, but the important takeaway is when we look at this in terms of how the residents view it, it's a big problem for them, it's a problem that's increasing, and it's something that, you know, we need to try and focus on. Like Turner mentioned, the communication, the clarity with the fees, those things are really important because that's important to our online reputation, resident satisfaction, and eventually, you know, the bottom line.
So let's wrap this up here. I know you guys have flights to catch and your brains are probably exhausted. You know, we try to pick 3 things that are trendy topics in 2023 and heading into 2024. You know, we know that these are difficult, you know, topics to talk about. You know, difficult conversations just in general, maybe conversations you're not having very often. What we really wanted to emphasize to you guys today is that you do have some level of control on this. And if you are really focused on just being good and taking on things that might be a difficult conversation or might be incredibly challenging to try to impact, we really strongly believe that you're going to see a benefit to both your online reputation and your business. So the 3 things we wanted to leave you with: you are in control of crime around your property. Now, it may not be complete control. You can't absolutely do everything about this, but there are things that you guys can be instilling in your properties to try to increase how the residents perceive safety. Number 2, you can be transparent with all your amenity and community fees. Even if your management company or ownership group structures fees this way, you can be making sure that during your onboarding process or whatever it might be, you are helping residents understand the fees and different charges that they might receive and why. And Peyton, if they're focused on doing that, what can we expect to happen?
My favorite part, we will increase the resident satisfaction. That's going to decrease the amount of 1 and 2 stars that we're getting. And like we saw in myth number 1, limiting those 1 and 2 stars is crucial for the aura side of things, for the online reputation side of things, and eventually, like Turner did with Money Talks, the bottom line. So all extremely important.
Well, that was everything we had. Thank you guys very much. I do know that a lot of you guys have to head out for flights, so we're not going to do a formal question setting up here. But Peyton and I are going to be hanging out in the back for quite a while to answer any questions you guys may have. We just don't want to hold anybody up. But we appreciate you guys sticking around. We appreciate you getting up early again this morning and doing some MythBusters with us. Appreciate it.